Okay, Justin, Keith, hey, congratulations for Anything for Jackson.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
Appreciate
much.
that.
I know the movie is a stuff for nightmares. So, well, let me start off with a question that was lingering on my mind for a while. Is both of you have like these filmography credits of all these Christmas movies? How did you guys end up here? to a
It's
horror
really,
movie?
yeah, it's really more of a question of how did we end up there? And
Yeah.
that's a question I don't think I have an answer for. Yeah,
Yeah.
Keith and I met about 7, 8 years ago, and became fast friends. Decided we want to make a horror movie together. So we reached out to some of our connections and found some money, and then were promptly handed a script out of a kid who played soccer with a monkey. So that was us trying to make a horror movie, and it sort of went on from there. It became this really weird thing where every time we try to make a horror movie, it turned into another one of these kids and family ones. And eventually we found ourselves here, 30, 35 movies later. And then we finally got our shot to make our first low budget indie horror film.
Well, then let's throw it to Keith. Keith, where did this idea then spark or initiated from?
Like all good ideas, this one spawned from a lie. We were in a meeting for a different movie, and they liked our idea, but they said, "Oh, I wish you guys brought something that was just, we're looking for something in the supernatural." And we were like, "Oh yeah, no, of course we have that. We just didn't bring with us because we were pitching this movie." So then that gave Justin and I about an hour and a half on the way home from that meeting to make up Anything for Jackson, so that I could go home and just start writing it up really quickly and send it back and say this was our supernatural horror that we had. So that was a car ride home. That was where the whole idea started.
So when you developed the idea on that car ride, you came up with the grandparents, all these ghosts, satanic rituals, all and just bunch it all into this film, Anything for Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a few things that changed along the way, but Justin and I, this is something we do a lot where we throw around ideas and things, and I always know the one that I want to write is the one that I can kind of see. I can see the whole movie right away. So that happened with Anything for Jackson. I knew exactly where I'd want to take the story, and so from there it was just kind of I would write 10, 15 pages, send them off to Justin. Justin throws out a lot of great what ifs. We go back and forth on that, then we just kind of keep adjusting until we have a first draft, and then we start looking over and figure out what we want to do with it.
Justin, how do you approach a horror movie after doing so many Christmas or romance movies? I mean, where do you start with something like this?
Well, it's I guess you separate it into two different things. The first you have the through line, the story element of it, and this story of grief about Henry and Audrey, and then of course this Becker story is another one. And you tell those stories the same way you tell any story. You want to try to make it real and tell the drama of it. And then when the horror comes up, then that certainly took some research, because those are scenes I had not directed before. I just dive into watching all of my old favorite horror films and some new ones that I thought were really great. You'd like a lot of scene analysis. I would break down scares from like James Wan and watch how he builds up that tension, and what happens 5 minutes before the scare, 3 minutes before the scare, to help build that. But yeah, really, it's still just storytelling. Those Christmas movies, as as great as they were, that they're all kind of the same thing. You tell the same story over and over again. It was we were producing, it's like a can of Coke, right? You want to make something familiar that people understand and they know. So I was really just making the entertainment. I would be here are your actors, here's your setting. Just make sure everyone's standing in the right spot and we get our coverage. But that's a very different animal than making a film like Anything for Jackson. So really it's it was daunting, as it would be if it was my first film ever. but really I was just I've been prepping for that my whole life, so I was very excited to get there on day one to make a film like this.
I know. I think the only similarity to the rest of the Christmas films is the fact that you guys filmed where it's snowing outside, and I understand this is your hometown, right?
It is, yeah. This is where we live. It's we know roughly how much snow we're gonna get and how much we're when to shoot. We got really lucky, I'll say that. There was a few days that we needed a lot of snow and we got dumped on right before, so it was good. It worked out.
I've read somewhere that a lot of these scenes were filmed in your own homes. What was that like? Because it's sort of like living and working at the same place, especially for a horror movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one was like, I mean, I wrote to knowing that we would film in my house, the bulk of the scenes for their house. So I could write to it, which was great, so same thing, Justin can come over and he can look at all the angles and we can decide geography where things are going to go. And then we ended up shooting 2 scenes in Justin's house. And then we built a set for Jackson's room.
That's excellent. Keith, there's a specific question of the grandparents. Why did you choose grandparents? Because a movie like this, a lot of people would think parents would be doing something like this rather than grandparents.
Right.
Why did you want to go that route?
I think a big thing that Justin and I ask ourselves all the time is what haven't we seen before? And I think originally the idea, to be 100% transparent, I think the original idea was to go with parents. I think that was the first little bit, and then we just we thought about it and we thought, okay, well, we haven't seen grandparents, and I know what it's like to have children and be willing to do anything for them, and I assume that someday I'll know that for grandparents as well. And so we just wanted to approach it from a different point of view and say, okay, well, here's a story we haven't seen before. Let's give it a shot.
It really comes from something as simple as that, as you throw out that basic idea of like, what, again, this goes back to what Keith was saying about what ifs. And what if it was grandparents? How would they deal with a situation like this? And then a whole bunch of other stuff just sort of magically starts appearing. And we think, oh, wow, this becomes a much more generational thing. Now it's not like they're kidnapping a pregnant woman 5 years younger than them. They're kidnapping a whole different generation. So it gets into the questions of, this feeling of, help me, Keith. Entitlement. That's so many syllables. The feelings of entitlement and how the generation feel against each other, feel about each other. So all these other, wonderful things come up when you do ask that what if question, and really it flushes out the story, makes it that much more interesting.
I love the fact, because since you guys brought up James Wan, because James Wan is notorious of bringing all these different creatures into his universe, and you guys did the same thing with all these different ghosts that trust me, horrifies me. How many different ghosts did you actually come up with that you brainstormed before finalizing your version?
I think these were I think there was 2 other ideas that I played with, as far as different kinds of emotions that I wanted to evoke from the ghost itself, like the trait. But I think the only one that really changed was the trick or treat ghost, right, Justin? I think everything else, I think I wrote a different version because it was going to be too expensive with the idea that I had originally.
Yeah, from the ones that you pitched to me, they didn't really change. But I don't know if you had other ghosts in mind before these ones came to life. But
yeah, just some simple things. But yeah, I mean, these were the ones that we wanted. So we knew, as I say, I mean, if anybody is interested in this kind of thing, originally the trick or treat ghost. So I'll say spoiler warning now. When it gets to the second stage of Trick or Treat Ghost, I think originally I'd written that I'd wanted, 40 different versions of that tiny ghost kind of coming after her and just taking her over and things, just crawling out from different cupboards, and just the idea that this ghost could be everywhere in your house all at once. But then, we found out about union rules and things like that. And we said, well, we definitely can't bring in 40 kids. So We went with that different route, and I'm glad we did. I like this way much better. I think it worked out great.
Well, I could tell you for certain, your flossing technique scene surely gave me nightmares. It makes me think twice
Perfect.
about over flossing now.
That's right.
But I do want to know is where did you guys find your contortionist for your movie?
Well, it's that one's interesting because I actually came across Troy, Canada's amusement parks, just on the outskirts of Toronto, called Canada's Wonderland. I was there, I don't know, 20 years ago, and they have this thing called Halloween Haunt, where every October they open it up and fill it with like haunted characters, and they do like haunted houses and stuff there. You can, ride the rides and things. So I'm there with a bunch of friends, and I see this contortionist walking around chasing people, and I made all my friends stop, like, we got to watch this guy because he's doing crazy things. And then sure enough, here we are 18, 20 years later, Keith and I are sitting down, I'm like, oh, who'd be great for this? That contortionist I saw 20 years ago. So we start Googling. We get Rebecca Lamarche, our casting director. Can you see if this guy still exists? We find his name. We look him up. Sure enough, now he's in like all of Guillermo's movies. He's in Scary Stories We Tell in the Dark. Like he's in all these projects. Oh, great. We missed it. We're no way we're going to get him. So we found another contortionist just through the casting process. She was phenomenal. She was going to come out and do it. And then she had some sort of scheduling conflict. She says, I'm sorry, I can't make it out, but I have this friend I work with all the time. Maybe you could get him. And sure enough, she sends us Troy James. The guy we originally went looking for just turned up on our laps. So he came out. He's the nicest person I've ever met.
He's just so mean and rude all the time.
That's why Keith's only the second nicest. So Troy was just phenomenal, and he brought so much to this. And a lot of people ask us if he was CG, but I can assure you that's all a 100% Troy.
Nothing.
Nothing. I didn't think it was CG. Well, let me wrap it up with one more question, is because a lot of people will realize that this is sort of like probably your horror passion project, and you guys put a lot of Easter eggs, from my understanding, into this film. So when people do actually watch, give us some hints of Easter eggs we should be looking for.
Listen for teeth dropping.
That's a good one.
There's a good hint.
I would say there's one that we haven't. Nobody has mentioned the one to us yet. And I'll just say it takes part with Trick or Treat. That's all I'll say. I think that's as much a hint as I would give on that one. And also brush up on your Latin, but I don't know if that one's going to be too easy to find. Good luck.
Brush up on the Latin. Absolutely. Well, Keith, Justin, hey, it's a very enjoyable film. It's a stuff of nightmares. So
thank you.
So all I could say to my audience is watch it during the daytime. No, just watch it at night. So congratulations to the both of you.
Thank you so much.
So much.
Hey,
really
thank you.
It.
Next time, hopefully we'll talk next time. Maybe it'll be a Christmas movie.
There you go. Excellent. Thanks so much.
A lot.